This is the International Space Station, the most expensive single piece of technology ever made. Let's put that into context. The average car, for most of us the most expensive piece of technology we will ever buy, costs around $47,000 in the United States. The International Space Station is so expensive that if you bought a car every single day for your entire life, you would still have spent only 1% the cost of the International Space Station. At $150 billion, this project is the most expensive and biggest project taken by humanity. And I say humanity because it wasn't the effort of an individual company or a country. It took the effort of the United States, Russia, the European Union, which itself is made of 27 countries, Japan, and Canada to get this thing built. The ISS is expensive, but what do we even use it for? What was the purpose of this machine? The ISS was hashed out between NASA and Roscosmos, a joint venture between the United States and Russia, two large nations, both with a strong desire and capability to explore the universe. The ISS was initially intended to be used as a lab for experiments in space, as an observatory to look out into deep space without our atmosphere getting in the way, and as a factory that would serve as a base station for spacecraft to dock into so we could maintain, repair, and store these vehicles on their journey out into the solar system, to the moon, to Mars, and maybe even beyond that. But that was a little optimistic. We thought this station would serve as a waypoint for us to reach the greater solar system, but we never really got there. Even though it never managed to be the space docking station that we envisioned in its future, we still use the ISS to learn a lot about the universe and about a lot of the things here on Earth. Right now, the most impactful use of the International Space Station is to run experiments in the extreme environments of outer space. These experiments span many fields, and they're not limited to physics or astronomy, even though many fundamental findings about dark matter and dark energy happen there. There are also medical tests to figure out how our bone density would change in outer space, or how fast we would be losing our muscles in long-term space travel. Something that we really need to understand if we're ever to send people to Mars, which is a 6-month journey one way. The ISS also figured out that there are certain creatures and organisms that can actually live for a brief period of time in outer space. In 2007, for example, we sent a bunch of tardigrade that were dehydrated to outer space in an experimental unit from the European Space Agency called Biopan. Later, they found that many of the tardigrades actually survived, and they lived complete lives, being able to reproduce normally. Running these experiments is helping us figure out how life may proliferate throughout the universe, and how we might one day use what we find to travel the universe ourselves. The ISS isn't only interested in outer space either. It has a bunch of instruments that are constantly looking back on Earth. Seeing our planet from so far away helps us figure out the composition of our atmosphere and how it changes over time. It also tracks the sun's rays, cosmic rays from outside the solar system, antimatter, and the effects of dark matter on our planet. The sensors that make observing all of these things possible are state-of-the-art and sometimes cost tens and hundreds of millions of dollars just to build them. They may be expensive, but they help us predict the weather on Earth and plan for disastrous events in space that may end us all. Building the ISS was no joke. The first module of the ISS, Zarya, was launched in 1998 by Russia and was the base module. It provided propulsion, electronic control, and communications. It could also steer this massive spacecraft. The second module, Unity, was sent up by NASA a few weeks later, and astronauts had to manually attach this module to Zarya. The big functionality that Unity provided was a way for the space shuttle to dock to the ISS so that future refilling missions could actually be done more safely and more quickly. The third module, Zvezda, added the functions needed to have people be able to live on board the ISS. It added sleeping quarters, a toilet, carbon dioxide scrubbers, oxygen producers, and better communication systems that allowed live video feed from the International Space Station to the people on Earth. The first crew to get on the ISS was Expedition 1, and they went up 2 years after the ISS was starting to be built in November 2000. Since then, there have been many additions to the ISS. It now has more than 15 pressurized cabins for astronauts to stay in, a bunch more power arrays with solar panels to provide redundant power and to power the many instruments that exist on the platform now. There's 2 robot arms from Canada that are used to do repairs features on the outside of the ISS. After looking at all of these components, it's pretty obvious why this thing is so expensive. Not only are the different parts extremely expensive on their own, it also costs a lot more to just get those things out into space. The ISS is the single most expensive thing that we've ever built. It's so expensive, in fact, that if for the lifetime of the ISS there are between 2 and 6 people living on it, it costs about $7.5 million per person per day. The ISS was supposed to wind down operations starting in 2015, but it has since been extended, and the ISS is targeted to be shut down in 2031. So, is it worth the $150 billion it costs to build? I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, but I think it's important to understand that this thing is answering fundamental questions about our place in the universe, and it does help to improve the lives of humanity here on Earth as a whole. Let me know what you think, and check out this video for more interesting tech.